Breaking news out of southern Africa, where Botswana and Namibia have unveiled an ambitious plan to build a joint oil refinery. Leaders from both nations are describing the project as historic, a bold step toward energy independence, and a clear signal that southern Africa intends to chart its own course in the global energy landscape. The refinery, which is still in its early planning stages, is expected to have a capacity of between 60 and 100,000 barrels per day. If completed as envisioned, it would be constructed near the border between Botswana and Namibia, giving both countries easier access to refined petroleum products without relying so heavily on imports from abroad. Officials say this is not just an infrastructure project, but a strategic investment in sovereignty, one that will help both nations control their own energy future. At present, Botswana and Namibia import the vast majority of their refined fuels. This dependency has left them exposed to the volatility of global oil markets, where sudden price spikes and supply chain disruptions can cause economic instability at home. Leaders believe that refining oil within their own region could save hundreds of millions of dollars every year, money that can instead be reinvested in jobs, schools, hospitals, and local industries. A joint statement released earlier this week confirmed that feasibility studies and environmental assessments are already underway. Both governments are working closely with technical experts to determine the most efficient and environmentally responsible design for the refinery. Funding for the project is expected to come from a combination of public-private partnerships, as well as possible support from the African Development Bank and other regional financial institutions. Industry analysts say the scale of this project could be transformative. Beyond reducing fuel import costs, the refinery is expected to create thousands of direct and indirect jobs, from engineers and construction workers to logistics operators and service providers. Local businesses are already preparing for the potential economic boom, as suppliers and contractors anticipate years of activity tied to the refinery's construction and operation. Some reports circulating online suggested that Tanzania was part of this initiative. Officials have clarified that this is not the case. The refinery is a bilateral project strictly between Botswana and Namibia. While Tanzania is indeed pursuing its own energy and industrial initiatives, including the East African crude oil pipeline with Uganda and the development of new mineral refineries, it is not involved in this particular refinery plan. This clarification is important, as regional cooperation in Africa is often misunderstood, with projects in one area sometimes incorrectly linked to neighboring countries. For Botswana and Namibia, this project is about more than energy. Both countries are seeking to diversify their economies away from an over-reliance on raw resource exports, especially diamonds in Botswana's case. By moving into energy refining, they are stepping into a higher value-added sector that allows them to capture more economic benefit rather than exporting raw materials and importing finished products. Leaders argue this is the future Africa must embrace if it hopes to achieve true economic independence. Observers note that the timing of this announcement is significant. Around the world, energy politics are shifting rapidly. Many countries are rethinking their supply chains, building new alliances, and attempting to shield themselves from global disruptions. For Botswana and Namibia, taking control of their energy future through a joint refinery is both an economic and political statement. It signals that African nations are ready to move beyond dependency and take greater ownership of their development paths. Still, challenges remain. Building a refinery of this scale requires not only massive investment, but also careful planning to ensure environmental sustainability. Critics warn that if not managed properly, the project could face delays, cost overruns, or opposition from environmental groups concerned about the climate impact of fossil fuel infrastructure. Both governments insist, however, that they are committed to international environmental standards and will design the refinery with modern, cleaner technologies that minimize emissions and waste. Regional leaders have already begun to voice support for the initiative, seeing it as a potential model for cooperation across Africa. By pooling resources, sharing expertise, and building infrastructure together, African nations can overcome the challenges of scale that often hinder development projects. If successful, the Botswana Namibia refinery could inspire similar partnerships across the continent. As of now, construction timelines have not yet been announced, but officials say progress on feasibility studies will be completed in the coming months. Once those are finalized, detailed plans for financing, design, and groundbreaking will follow. Both governments emphasize that this is a long-term project, but one they are determined to see through to completion. For the people of Botswana and Namibia, the refinery represents hope for cheaper fuel, more jobs, and stronger economies. For the wider African continent, it represents a symbol of what is possible when nations work together with vision and determination. In the words of one Namibian official, this refinery is not just about economics. It is about resilience, sovereignty, and charting a new path in Africa's energy future.